Hello, my name's Manny, and I'm going to explain how Kong Enterprise can help you govern the management of your APIs and empower developers to include API management in their automated workflows. Kong Enterprise helps you decentralize applications, secure and govern APIs, and provide a developer platform or API catalog where everybody can find and reuse your APIs. Today, we're going to focus on how Kong can help you accelerate the delivery of your microservices because Kong itself can be administered and configured in an automated way by your agile development teams. Let's say I'm on a development team and I'm using the Kong API gateway to deploy common logic for my microservices. Well, I have to be able to integrate and deliver Kong as part of the pipeline used to deploy my application. And for security reasons, I want to make sure that I'm enforcing governance around the API management using role-based access control. The Kong admin API combined with role-based access control empowers your pizza teams to work autonomously so they can deliver their services without you having to give them too much access. Let's take a look at how this works. You're going to see that I've enabled role-based access control, so my administrator only has access to his specific project workspace. Then you're going to see me programmatically add Kong objects to add services, routes, and plugins because I need those for my services. Finally, you'll get to see this in the UI. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go into my Kong manager. Notice I have three workspaces here, one for default workspace, one for product X, and one for product Y. Now let's say I'm an administrator that works on product X. So I don't really need to see all of these workspaces, and I shouldn't be able to create objects in these workspaces. Well, let me switch screens here and show you what the login looks like when role-based access control is enabled. Right here, I'm logged in as Manny, and I can only see my Product X workspace. So when I view that workspace, I can now see all the Kong objects, but only specific to the workspace I'm supposed to have access to. Now, let's say I'm deploying a service. I'm building a new microservice, and I want Kong to apply policy. Well, I'm going to programmatically tell Kong how to do this because I don't necessarily, I want to, do it as part of my automation scripting. Let's see a script that actually does this. If I open up my code editor, you'll see that I actually have a script here that's going to call the Kong admin port, and it's going to authenticate with the admin token, which tells Kong who the user is, and it tells Kong exactly what role-based access control they have access to. So with this script, I'm going to create a workspace, clients, services, and plugins so that I don't have to build it into my service code. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like when I run it. I'm going to go ahead and call this script. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back into Kong as my administrator and just refresh the screen. And what you should see is now I have created an order service. I've created a couple consumers. I've applied some policy. I've exposed this service via an orders route. I've done everything I need to do as a developer to test out and make sure my application is working. So what did I just show you? Well, as a developer, I'm now able to configure Kong to route and apply common logic. I can configure it programmatically as part of my build process. And as the person that's responsible for API governance, I can make sure that my developer that's creating these scripts only has access to the environment and workspace that they need permissions to work on. This is fantastic, but the next concept we're going to talk about is how do I automate the delivery of Kong? Let's say my application's ready. I've done the testing, I've done the coding, I've built my service, and I'm ready to deliver it now to a staging or QA or maybe even production environment. Well, Kong makes it very easy for your developers to automate the delivery of Kong alongside your application code using declarative configuration, as well as an ingress controller for Kubernetes environments. I can configure an entire Kong cluster, a specific workspace. I can make incremental changes, And I can use drift detection to make sure my Kong configuration does not drift from my Git source of truth. So I'm going to show you how Kong does this with a tool called Deck. I'll show you a declarative file that's going to define my entire Kong configuration for my Product X workspace, and then I'm going to sync that configuration with my current environment. So let's take a look. First of all, you saw my workspace here, and you saw that in my workspace, I only have access to Product X, and I have services, consumers, and plugins created. Well, let's say I now want to deploy an environment into this environment. I want to deliver that because it's already been tested and it's ready to move into QA. Well, if I go back into VS Code, you can see a declarative configuration of an entire Kong cluster. So this is for the workspace Product X. I can manage it with tags, and I can create services. I can create routes, upstreams, certificates, SNIs, as well as Kong plugins so that I don't have to build that functionality into my code. Well, let's go ahead and deploy this into my Kong workspace. To do that, I can simply call the deck sync command. I have an alias that's going to do it for me. And what you'll see it do is it's going to create 22 different Kong objects. So now if I go back into Kong, into my Kong manager, and I refresh, you'll see that a number of new services will be created. So you can see the 3 services that were in development before are now in my QA environment. I have a couple consumers that are now in my QA environment. And I have plugins that I'm ready to use with my services. So I've effectively just configured an environment using code and a source of truth if I tie this to GitHub. So what have I just shown you? Well, you saw how you can use the admin API to empower your teams, but what we just went through was similar to the Kong admin API. I can actually enable automated delivery of configuration as code. So now I can put an entire configuration for Kong or a Kong workspace in a file and use a source of truth like GitHub to manage the delivery. So whether you're using the admin API or Deck or Kubernetes manifest to configure Kong, the benefit here is that automation is going to reduce the manual processes and human mistakes, and it's going to give you a reliable, secure, and predictable release cycle. Many customers use Kong to automate the delivery of routing and supporting logic to their microservices so they can get new features out faster using agile development methodologies. I hope this session was helpful for you. We do have a lab where we can actually show you how to use this with a GitOps pipeline. Thank you very much.